And welcome to a special edition of Nostalgia Alley. We have one of my favorite people on the air. Dustin Dumas is here, and she is the host of Kaleidoscope here on SOMA. Has done it for many, many years. Mm-hmm. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to put you on the other side of the microphone.
Okay.
How does it feel to be on the other side of the microphone?
Odd.
Okay.
But I'm looking forward to it.
But you brought some friends with you.
I did.
To keep you company.
I did.
Who did you bring?
I brought Big Red.
Big Red. Now
Yes.
Tell me about Big Red. How was he born? Was it a hard delivery or?
Well, Big Red is a part. He is a part of a company that I run. So the company is a plush toy company, which has expanded into more than toys, but it started with a simple picture that my son drew. It wasn't Big Red, but another picture. And then I liked it so much that I surprised him one day and made it into a big stuffed animal. I posted it on Facebook, and other parents asked me to make the same thing for their children. Not the same picture, but their pictures.
So I could actually draw something, and you could make a plush piece out of my drawing?
True, yes.
You might be arrested. And you got some other friends with you too. Let's take a look.
So there are some people who actually don't have a drawing, and sometimes I actually go to festivals and I sell online, and these are typical of the size that I would have, like these two sizes. But these are just ready made, so these are not necessarily.
So you can buy those.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
We have to buy all of them, but the thing is that if you're not creative and you don't feel like you can make a drawing or draw something, at least there's something there for you to, check out and see if there's something you'd like.
So the smaller ones for an apartment, the bigger ones for a house, right?
Exactly.
Okay, good.
Exactly.
What else do you have? Let's take some of the bigger ones here. I think that's so amazing that you can take a drawing and make it into a plush piece.
This one is Captain, and this one is
Do I have to salute the captain,
yes,
or can I? Okay, I captain.
Salute the captain. And this one is actually made from a drawing. And just to give you an idea, the process is I look at every detail. So if someone makes the eyes a little askew, they'll be a little askew on the actual plush. If the mouth is off a little bit, or if there's a color, I think probably one of the most difficult things is trying to match the color to the drawing so that whoever gives me the drawing is not disappointed that it's off, like it's a different green or something like that, or a different blue. So. And
how did you get the idea? Was it from your son that you got the idea to do it?
I really like this drawing he made, and so it was under my desk protector for many months, if not a year. And then I just decided I sew. So I decided just to make a big plush creature out of that. And it's really big, so I couldn't bring and that creature is called Mr. Gray. Wow. It's a little too big to bring to the studio, but that's how it started.
So what was your son's reaction when he saw what he drew actually into a plush piece?
Well, I'll never forget it because I actually put it in his room so after school he could just discover it on his own. But of course I was listening, and all of a sudden he knew exactly what it was, because as he went into the room, it was on his bed, and he goes, "Wow. Oh, wow."
That's
cool,
he
was.
Boy, I'm going wow, and I'm a lot older, That's terrific. Now, where can you get these? How do you get them?
I actually sell online, and I have an Instagram page and also a Facebook page. And if you go to Mr. Gray and Friends, and Gray is spelled Grey, then you can find them there. And I also sell at different bazaars and different things around, around the area.
Now to take it even further, and you wear many hats. I'm amazed by all the things you do. It's just incredible. You have a whole line of children's books.
Yeah, I've written a few.
Wow.
I've written a
From
few.
plush to books, I mean.
I think
Unbelievable.
It's like sort of the same thing.
Yeah, this.
You know.
Why don't you hold that up for the camera?
Yeah. So
Tell us about Taylor and Mr. Monkey.
So as I was telling you, actually before we started,
right.
the way my son always talks about different stuffed animals is that he just names them after whatever it is, like, you know, if it's a moose or whatever it is. But I wrote the books because I wanted him to have something of his own. And again, it was one of those things where other people saw it and said, hey, you should probably put it on Amazon. So it's, it was on Amazon.
Right.
And so I just drew about different experiences. So like the Liberty Science Center, the aquarium, the zoo, different things.
Right.
So.
You know, you're a great mom, because most moms, you know, here's an ice cream cone. You know, good luck. But you make plush, you make books. I mean, is your son getting a percentage of this, or how is this working for him?
No, actually, what happens is that now that he knows that I, like, for example, the plush creatures, as soon as I made the first one, he came with a lot of other drawings, and he's like, make these. It takes a lot of time, you know.
I imagine it does. Yeah.
Excuse me, he doesn't realize it. So he just started drawing lots of them, like I could just produce them like that. So I don't think he quite understands that. But with the books, you know, he likes, it's just normal to him. He expects to be in books. He expects to have his creations made.
It's wonderful, boy.
Yeah.
My parents, you know, they said, you know, go out and play in traffic. You know, I didn't get all this, you know, but that's wonderful. Now, this is a big segue. We have another book called Lessons from a Recovering Working Bee.
Yes.
I don't see any plush pieces you're holding.
No, this was
pre-plush.
Yes.
Now, what have you learned from being a working bee? What are some of the life lessons in the book?
Well, I'll start by telling you a little bit about the book. It was created because I wrote the book because I saw myself as a worker bee. I did a lot of things behind the scenes, and I still do, which is fine. But I also just sort of got wrapped up in doing the work, but not getting any recognition and not necessarily going forward and not learning lessons. So this book was written because I had worked in Chicago and just different places and in Europe. And each place I learned lessons. So I thought, well, maybe I could impart some of this wisdom to other people.
Now, so many people work behind no recognition whatsoever. How do you get recognition in the workplace?
Well, I think one of the things that I found helpful was that you have to speak up. And if you're in meetings where there are things that you feel like need to be addressed, then you ask them to be addressed. You know, ask for them to be addressed, or you make mention of them, that kind of thing.
You know what I was impressed with? I'm looking at your resume, and you know I didn't do it because we'd be having breakfast here, but you worked Copenhagen, Denmark, Frankfurt, Germany in banking, and what impressed me was you had to learn Danish to keep a job. Now, how many people have the ability to learn Danish to keep a job? That must have been very difficult.
You know what? Before I moved to Europe, I had only learned Spanish. And I took Spanish from like grade school all the way through graduate school. But Danish was a totally different language in the sense that they even have different letters. But part of my work contract was that I had to speak Danish at work. I couldn't, even though my colleagues could speak English quite well, I couldn't speak to them in English. So, but they helped me. They didn't set me up for failure. I also took advanced and accelerated Danish lessons, you know, when I wasn't at work. Okay. So it actually, and it's actually pretty easy to learn a language if you're actually living there and you're forced to go and buy food and stuff like that. So after about 3 months, I would say, I could go into the store and buy things, and people wouldn't. They would not revert to English, which was pretty cool.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
That's an accomplishment, I'll tell you.
Yeah, it was intense though. It was an intense, you know, and it just got better after that.
Did you eat a lot of Danish pastry to prepare? Wow. And a career in banking and finance, and
That's what I did. I did that. I think that's probably why that creative side comes out in me now, because I worked in banking for years and I worked in trading. And so with that in that industry, there isn't anything tangible. It's, you're trading bonds or you're, that kind of thing. And so at the end of the day, you don't have anything. And I've been very creative. My family's creative, but I wasn't able to use that. So I think part of the reason I like doing the sewing and the writing and things like that is because the first, like right after I got out of graduate school and after undergrad, I was working in banking, and it was fun. I have to say it was fun. I was
enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely, because I was afforded to like go and work abroad. I mean, that's a whole nother story.
I bet.
Because I actually was one of those people who had several jobs after business school, but I really wanted to work abroad, so I said no to those and went looking for a job without having one in Europe. So
Is banking similar to trading? I mean, are there certain things you learn in banking that help you in trading?
Yeah, they're all under the same umbrella. Trading's just one part of banking, and the other part is investment banking. So the trading part is very simple, like buy and sell stuff and tell your clients what you expect the market to do. The investment banking side is a little bit broader. You might be helping a client with an IPO or an initial public offering, or you might be helping them with a bridge loan, something like that. So they're two different sides of the same coin, but it all has to do with money.
Wow. Money, right?
Yeah.
I remember years ago, you used to go to a bank, and if you opened up an account of $25, they would give you a free toaster. This is what happened way back when. Now, in order to make a deposit, you have to give the bank the toaster. It's all changed.
Switched around a little bit.
It's all switched around. What really, and we're going to get in a little bit on the second half, your grandfather was in the Civil War.
Yes, I have two grandfathers.
That's incredible.
On the Union side of the Civil War, yes.
What was that like being an African American in the Civil War? It must have been very difficult.
Well, I have actually read books, and one grandfather was very well documented because he was the first African American to live in his city after the war. He actually moved from the South to Illinois, which is where I'm from. And so because of that, and because his family was in that area, there is a lot written about him. But it was not fun. In fact, he escaped in order to join the Union Army. And
Escaped from where?
He escaped from where he was being enslaved.
Wow.
And the only reason I know this is because the National Archives, they have these records, and he had to prove that because when you're born enslaved, you don't have a birth certificate. So after the war, he was denied veteran benefits because he could not provide a birth certificate.
Wow.
So as a consequence, there's a lot of documentation where other people who have basically said, he actually was people who knew him before he was in the Civil War, who basically said, yes, we knew him before. And in addition to that, this is something very rare, which I'm so happy I have it. But in his own words, he couldn't read or write. But in his own words, it explains how he was on this particular plantation, and he ran away and joined the Union Army and different things like that. So I actually have in his words what happened, what transpired.
It's incredible.
It is. It's
really
pretty
is.
incredible. But it wasn't a good situation, obviously, living on that plantation. But
wow.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've got to take a break.
Okay.
Hate to take a break. We're in the middle of something, but we have to take a break. And this is Mike Sobel saying, don't touch that dial. We'll be right back with more.
Every child needs a place.
A place to call home.
A place where they can play and dream.
And plan for their future.
In the Habitat house,
My daddy helped build.
I study. I grow.
I learn.
I live. Your support can help
Put a decent roof
over the heads of a family like mine.
like mine.
Like mine.
To learn how you can help, visit habitat.org.
And welcome back to Nostalgia Alley. We have a treat. Dustin Dumas is here behind the microphone, the opposite side of the microphone. And what I wanted to ask you, he's in the Civil War. Was it segregated like the Second World War was?
Yes. So
How did that work?
So I have two grandfathers who were in the Civil War, and it's interesting because one was in what they called the United States Colored Troops, so it was all African American. The other grandfather was attached to part of a white Civil War regiment, so he was limited as to what he could do. So he started as a laborer, and then he worked his way up to like an undercook. The other grandfather, because he was attached to an African American regiment, he actually came in as a I don't want to give wrong information, but he came in he was not a private. So yes, they were segregated. And there's a great museum in DC, the African American Civil War Museum, where I've actually been able to present on both of them. What's interesting is that outside of the museum, they have a wall with all of the different regiments, but it includes only the soldiers who were in the African American regiment. So one grandfather is on the wall, but one isn't, because he was not in the African American regiment, but it was segregated.
It must be a thrill to get up there in front of it always to talk about your family heritage. I mean, how many people have the opportunity to do that?
Yeah, it was fun. I've done it a few times. I've done it for each grandfather, and it is fun because it's history, and it's a history I wasn't taught. So it's really fun for me to tell other people, and because the National Archives does such a great job of recording the information that they receive from the soldier. So I know things like, one grandfather was 5'5". I know that another one was injured during the war. I knew, as I told you before the last segment ended, I found out that one of my grandfathers actually escaped to go to a Union regiment. And I should mention that
He actually escaped from slavery.
Exactly. So he ran away. Yes. Because I can't even imagine the type of fear just to leave, not knowing that you'd be killed. I mean, you could be killed and not even knowing, because it was still segregated. Because this was a grandfather who actually attached to white regiment, so he didn't even know whether or not they would accept him. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, that must have been hard, being one of the few people in a white regiment. I mean,
yes.
Did he make friends? Was he able to?
From what I get, yes, he did.
Good,
because
good.
Actually, that's the reason he came to Illinois, is because there were people in the regiment who were from Illinois, even though they were in Tennessee, which is where he was. They were in Tennessee, but from Illinois, and that's how my family came to Illinois, is because he followed some of the other soldiers back. And he was, like I said, he's very well documented, so there are pictures of him at different services. He was part of the Grand Army of the Republic, which is basically their veterans organization, and there are pictures of him. And it's so unusual to see pictures that old, and also of African American soldiers back then. He wasn't in this was after the Civil War, so he's not in any kind of uniform, but just to have him in those pictures is pretty cool.
But the sad part is he didn't have a birth certificate, being a slave, and he got absolutely zero benefits.
No, he did.
Oh, he
but
did.
He had
Good.
to fight for them, so that's why I was able to get the information from the National Archives, is because they record all of this. So he had to have other people vouch for him to say, yes, he lived here. He existed. And because they keep those records, I was able to get them.
Wow, that's true.
Yeah.
Now you wear many hats, but your latest hat now is station manager of SOMA. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard. It's great to have you. What changes can we look forward to in SOMA?
You know what
Are we putting in the martini bar? Are
not
we
quite
doing
yet.
that? Not yet?
I mean, not quite
No?
yet.
Okay.
That might be a consideration.
Yeah.
But what I am doing is I'm trying to get input from all of the producers and the community, and like and you've been great. For example, you sent me lots of pictures. We started an Instagram page.
Okay.
We already had a Facebook page, and we of course have a channel. But I was at an event yesterday with you actually, and the lady seated next to me.
It was great.
Yeah, the lady seated next to me didn't even know that SOMAtv existed.
I know.
So I'm just trying to get people aware, just make them aware, and also have our hosts and producers and new people add content.
That's a sad thing because, you open up the daily news as a TV section, but with Soma, there really isn't. So it's very hard to get the word out.
Right.
You can turn a channel and you get an idea of the shows, but there are so many neat things going on.
Yes.
What are some of the shows that Soma has?
Well, of course, your show, which, I've been a fan of for many years.
Thank you.
How long have you been on for many
I've been
years,
on
right?
since 1947. I started when I was a little child. No. Actually, I think I'm going on about 18 years.
Wow.
You can see all the gray hairs from the show? Yeah.
Yeah, so like shows like yours, because one thing that people may not know is that I've worked behind the camera as well.
I know.
I come and volunteer because I
You're
think
the
it's
best.
fun to just do that.
You actually made me look good.
It's just, I think it's fun to come and help people out, but also I learned so much from the guests that people have on. So I want to do more things. I want to have more people come into the station and things like that. So as far as like new things to look for and the types of programming we have, I want to continue with that. But of course, we have a couple of people who are interested in coming aboard. So, more content. The more content, the better.
So let's say somebody's watching us now and they go, I want to do a show. I have a great idea. I'm going to do the history of poodles or something.
Okay.
How would they get started doing a show here on Soma?
So on SOMAtv.org,
Right.
all one word, SOMAtv, no hyphens, no dashes, no underscores. They could go there, and there's an actual form that they can fill out, and then we get that form, and then we can go from there. But, as long as people have an idea and it's something that we can view, then, of course, it would be great.
That's terrific. What are your biggest challenges as station manager? I mean, because you're stepping in, and it's a lot of stuff going on.
It's just learning, getting up to speed, because it's been a while since I've actually programmed the broadcast, like the TV station. I did it many years ago. This is the third station that I've been a part of. I've been a part of one in California. I've been a part of one in Illinois, and this is the third one. But it's different. I mean, it's one thing to tape a show, edit it, but it's another thing to try and figure out the
logistics.
Logistics, and also just trying to figure out how to program the TV station, and also trying to make sure that I give people, if somebody wants a Thursday or Tuesday, just trying to do that as well. So there are a lot of different moving parts.
How did you get started in TV?
I started back when I was living in Illinois, and it was actually my mother who mentioned that there was this community. At that time, I think it was just known as public access.
Yes.
Right? I think it's still known in some areas, but
we call it big time television.
Exactly. And she told me about this show, or about these classes, and I took the classes, and I'm like, this is so cool, because I thought it was fun that I could actually produce something and then put it on television. And so for me, it was really important for me to talk to my neighbors and for example, I remember one of the first interviews I did was one of the curators of a science museum, and no one knew about this little science museum. And then there's another person who was an artist who had art all around his house, just like big, huge statues. So, I mean, for me, it was fun. It was like, okay, the classes are nice, but how do I use them? And I wanted to use them in a way where it would help the community. And I thought talking to neighbors and finding out about different little museums or different things like that would be fun.
Because you're informing people what's going on. We try to do that here with Soma.
Exactly.
Any little event, or even though we tape it and it may not be shown for a while, we try to kind of get within the community and what's going on, and which I think is a great help to and the other thing that we really need is volunteers behind the camera.
Yes.
Ben, who does all of the technical stuff, Ben, We have no camera people. These are all
No.
cameras just looking at
They're
us,
stationary,
unless
yeah.
they're invisible people. But Ben in control makes it look like $1 million operation. He looks like,
Exactly.
wow, we must have a staff of 5,000 people.
Exactly.
So how do we get volunteers to man those cameras
You know,
and
we're
help out?
always asking people. I personally tell people about the station, but you know, that's just one person. One of the other efforts that I'm doing is that I will have on the station, you know, if you want to volunteer, just like a slide, so that people know that they're able to come and volunteer and also learn more about the station.
That's great.
But if people are watching and they want to volunteer, again, go to SOMAtv.org and there's a form you can fill out. So the form isn't just if you are interested in a show, but it's if you have any questions about SOMAtv.
I mean, it's a great way to learn TV.
It is.
I don't promise you got to start here in Soma. Anyway, before we go, lessons from a recovering worker bee.
Yeah.
How do we get a copy of this?
You know what? I think there are still some copies on Amazon, but
Okay.
You would have to go. Yeah, just Amazon. Yes,
Amazon.
Amazon.
You know, you can get anything in the world on Amazon.
Yes,
It's kind of
you can.
scary.
Yes.
My theory is that if Amazon could run this country, we'd have a great country, because everything you order comes exactly 2 days. It's all perfect. There's no problem, you know. Now, these wonderful coloring books, how do we get a hold of that?
They're digital on Amazon as well.
On Amazon too? Mm-hmm. Oh, great.
So I have an author page there. So if you go to Dustin Dumas, there's an author page.
And tell me about the illustrations.
Oh, those are my poor illustrations. You know, like I said, this was something that I just had for my son. So they were, you know, I'm not a professional, you know, artist or anything like that, but they were for him. And as I said to other people, other people also wanted them. So I'm like, okay, if you would like them, so.
Good. He's very talented, your son. We've got to get him to do a few books, get his own
Yes.
TV. How old
He's
is your
not-
son?
He's 13. He's
13,
way
wow.
better. He's really good.
Does he have any idea what he wants to do later on in life?
I don't know, not yet.
Okay.
But he definitely loves working on the 3D printer and making things like that. So it's funny because, you know, when I was 13, we didn't have access to 3D printers or things like that. And so now he gets a chance to use that kind of printer and other things like that.
So many cool things for the kids now, you
Yes,
know. Like
yes.
when I was a kid, I had a Lionel train set that went around a tree, and I'm going,
Right.
oh, isn't that great? You know, now they're on a computer solving mathematical problems and
Exactly.
how to make a better world. It's all,
Yes.
it's amazing. But there's no interaction between people. They're on the computer, they're playing computer games.
Yeah.
That's the sad part.
That is
There's
the
no
sad part.
stickball on the street
Right.
or cowboys in India. You know, they're not interacting. They're interacting on the
Right.
computer. But anyway, I think our time is almost. Where did the time go? Is it under here? Where is it? Where'd it go? Dustin, thank you so much. Good luck. It's great to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
It's terrific, right? What
This
can I
was a lot of
say?
fun. Thank you.
So this is Mike Sobel saying good night and goodbye to you, and especially to you.